The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the expressed written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
stationed atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies.
It's Thursday, January 4th, Friday, January 5th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. I hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, live from the Great White North in the Cariboo region on top of the snowy mountains of central British Columbia, right here stationed at SOR headquarters. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live at spacedoutradio.com. Spreaker, TheFringe.fm, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. We're all over social media. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, follow me at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We're on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, we have a GoFundMe campaign going on right now. And what that is GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. I want to say a big thank you to Mark and BTO for the latest to help us out so we could build up a brand new studio here, because we have terrestrial stations that are waiting on us to get a brand new studio. We want to make that happen. You guys can help out and be a part of it. So thanks so much for the donations and the continued support. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Read up on the Encounter Online, dealing with everything paranormal, strange, and odd. You have my latest blog there to read as well. We also got great videos from Tim Doyle's UFO Seekers and Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV. Now, there's a couple of topics that we really don't get much into on this show, but I really think we need to do a little bit more of. You can blame me for that, because I book the guests. That is survival and science fiction. Now, I shy away a little bit from the sci-fi because I've never really grown up as a sci-fi guy. But then again, with the experiences I've had personally, and a lot of you have had, that's just kind of sci-fi reality, is it not? And survival. I never thought too much about survival until earlier last summer, when I was evacuated from my house during the forest fires. That has given me an entire different outlook, and a respectable outlook, on making sure that I am prepared personally, because I was that guy who always said, oh, it happens to someone else. That doesn't happen to me. And lo and behold, it did. So tonight, we're going to hit the nail on the head with both topics, as we are joined by author Michael Z. Williamson, or if you're in the United States, Michael Z. Williamson. Michael, great to have you on the show. I know you go both ways because you're both from Canada and the United States.
Actually, I was originally born in the UK and then moved to Canada and then to the US.
Yes, but you still got the Z and Z thing going down, so both are correct. I'm pretty happy with that.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm pretty happy with that. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I want to mention your website, michaelzwilliamson.com. This is where you can find all of Michael's work. He is a real affinity for really writing about anything that comes to mind. He's not a unique style. And this is what I like about you, and, you know, talking with your publishing company about having you on the show. I thought it was absolutely fantastic that you're going to join us tonight. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience a little bit, let them get to know you. Tell us about your history, how you go from the United States Marine Corps, I believe, to becoming an author.
Actually, I was Air Force and Army, not Marines.
Oh, I apologize.
Not a problem. And I'm getting some static in the line. I'm British by birth. My father's Scottish, my mother's English. We moved to Canada when I was young. We moved to the U.S. when I was a teenager. I enlisted in the U.S. Air Force. I was active duty for about 5 years, moved into Guard, then into Army Guard, back to Air Guard, back to Army Guard, back to Air Guard again, depending on what promotions were available and what units were open. I started writing when I was 18. I started getting published when I was about 30. And I've been professional at it at this point for coming up on 20 years.
Do you enjoy the mind skills that it takes to write a book?
Absolutely. When I write, there's the initial enthusiasm. There's throwing down all this chaotic clutter of ideas. There's organizing the ideas. There's getting the story written. And then there's the trudging real work of making everything fit together. Continuity, character, all that. And that's when I know I'm almost done, because that's the hard work part. And then after I'm done, I typically don't ever read my stuff again after I've finished writing, reviewing, editing, going through the production process. I just never want to look at them.
I don't blame you for that. You know what? When I was in radio and a journalist, a lot of people have said to me, do you have any of your first tapes? Do you have anything? No, I don't listen to myself. I can't stand listening to myself. Even today, we've done over 600 shows on this program, and I still do not look or listen to my program. I can't handle it. It just bugs me. Are you the same way because you try and be such a perfectionist?
I've been on several TV shows and I've never seen myself. For one thing, I don't watch much TV, and I'm not really interested in seeing what I look like on TV.
So when you decided to choose the genre of what you were going to write about, Michael, What made you decide to bounce from subject to subject rather than being unidirectional?
The money. A friend of mine got me interested in sci-fi in 7th grade. I got very interested in it, and that's when I started writing. And that's when I got my first novel published, was Freehold, my first SF novel, which has done very well. Before that even made print, I had somebody who worked in production in several different genres. Bill Fawcett was working on some military-themed stuff and asked me if I'd like to write a military trilogy, and he'd pay me. I'm like, well, sure, I've got military experience. I can do this. They were written, basically, HarperCollins was trying to cash in, as every company does, on the war on terror, and wanted some books along that theme. They wanted 3 of them within 18 months. So each of those books was written in about 6 months. I actually, at some point, someone said, you should write some cheap, schlocky military stuff just to, make money. And I said, well, that's what the Sniper trilogy was. And this was a veteran, and he said that was pretty good quality schlock. So it turned out okay.
Did you always grow up thinking that you were going to be a writer, Michael?
I always was a writer from about 8 years old. I never really thought about getting successful at it. That just sort of happened, but I love the fact that it did. It's very rewarding, and in fact, my latest anthology, Forged in Blood, I found out today is up for an editorial award. And I've been promoting that on social media for people who want to vote for it, mostly because the writers who wrote stories for me deserve the credit. Whether or not I win the award is nice, but they did some amazing work, and I'd like them to be able to say that they were an award-winning anthology.
How long does it take you to write a book? How long does it take you to get it to where you need it to be?
How long does it take to dig a hole? Depends on the book. I've done the third one of the Sniper trilogy when I had the characters established and everything laid out ready to go. Took me about 30 days. First novel took me 4 years. The time travel novel I did a couple back actually took most of 2 years because there was a tremendous amount of research and technical information that went into it, and it has to be made seamless so that it's part of the story and not a lecture on it.
Do you find that going out and talking to people, whether it's on the lecturing circuit or doing television for documentaries, is just a part of the process that kind of happens when you become a successful author? Pardon me?
It's good marketing. I do enjoy doing it. It is interesting to talk to people, and I learn things doing that. How TV production works is useful for writing stuff that may eventually get developed. It's always great meeting people with useful knowledge and experience. I've got friends in just about every field. If I need technical advice, I just say, I'm looking for information on this. For one story, it was on cargo ships. I've apparently got 3 fans who are commercial ship crewmen and 2 who are ship captains. So I got all kinds of first-hand information, and it was fascinating, the difference in perspective and industry between the American one, a Danish captain, and somebody who works on American flag ships, but in the Pacific, in the eastern, Western Pacific. They all had very different perceptions of how things go.
So, do you usually, you mentioned that you wrote the Sniper trilogy, and I'm just wondering, do you like doing trilogies like that in order to maintain the theme of a story, or do you like writing the one-offs as well?
There's advantages to an ongoing universe, whether it's a trilogy specifically or just related works. My Freehold universe, the stories are related, but they're not necessarily in a direct linear fashion. It means you can have continuity of the universe, continuity of character sometimes. You've got an established thing to write. And often once you start writing something, you realize there's more than one story to tell in that environment. And so that gives an opportunity. The anthology is actually in that same universe timeline. I wrote the timeline and then courted other authors to pick either one of the concepts or one of the parts of the timeline and then write the story for that. One-offs, and there's nothing wrong with a one-off. But often a one-off, as I said, you write it and then you go, there's another story there too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the beauty of a one-off. You can always go back and rewrite it or rewrite something different towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start off the show by talking to you about survival, because this is something that has been kind of close to my heart, as you heard in the introduction, that this last summer, I mean, for a lot of Americans, you hear about the forest fires that were happening in California up until recently, and a lot of people have died. A lot of people have lost everything, their homes, their vehicles, everything. I went through a similar situation this year. I was fortunate enough where me and my neighbors, our homes survived. I was evacuated for 15 days, and every day I think about it. Every day it's on my mind. So when we talk survival, Michael, did you become an expert through your military background, or was this something that once you left service that you felt that you needed to focus on just in case the worst of the worst happened?
It's something that I'd actually been working at it a long time. When in Boy Scouts, I took Wilderness Survival Merit Badge and First Aid and camping and hiking and bunches of other stuff. In the Air Force, I was an engineer. So, we spent a lot of time in the field improvising and constructing stuff for everybody else. And we had classes on, what to do when they don't hand you the standard deployment kit and you have to make do with the materials available at hand. And we had one discussion where pretty much every vehicle we had was diesel. We had a decontamination unit that ran off gasoline for our section. And we asked, so how sure are we that we're going to get gasoline when everything else is diesel? This seems questionable. And don't worry, the carpenter's chainsaws also run off gasoline. So the question remains, when every vehicle and major piece of equipment we got runs off diesel, how sure are we that these two useful pieces of equipment that run off gasoline are actually going to have gasoline? And there really isn't a way to make a good diesel chainsaw or the other stuff we had. But you learn to question resources, supplies, equipment, environments. And then I made more of a study of it afterwards. I'm not necessarily an expert. There are people who do much more in-depth planning than I do for people who are, planning on building a shelter, including things like power grid coverage, structural stability of the ground, things like that. I'm, quite knowledgeable, and I notice things and bring them up. The two things I actually had a commercial survival kit I was selling, and it's become unavailable. I was supplementing the base kit with other parts. So I'm now going through a bunch of different things like folding saws, which ones are, quality enough that people could use them. There's a great little tool here it's a knife, a saw, reflecting mirror. It's got a sharpener built into it, a fire striker, but it's very cheaply made. And I suppose it might work once, which theoretically is all you need, but something a little sturdier would be more desirable. And the two things I've been coming across the last couple of weeks is every one of these little survival kits someone sells has fishing lines and fish hooks in it. And I'm thinking, if you're broken down, then either A, you're taking shelter until someone finds you, hopefully quickly, or B, you're hiking out of there. I'm not aware of any plan where you're going to sit around fishing, especially with substandard equipment, if you even know how to fish. And if you're close enough to a body of water that has big enough fish that it's worth fishing for them, then you flag down someone on a boat to get you out of there. Like, why? It's a tradition, but why do they waste time with fishing hooks inside your tiny little pocket survival kit when an extra lighter would probably be more useful? And then the other thing is all these camouflage survival devices. And unless there actually is an alien invasion or an enemy invasion, your survival gear needs to be bright orange or bright yellow so you can be easily found. You're not hiding if you're in a survival situation. You want someone to come and get you. So, things like that. Why do people do this? And then, of course, here in the Midwest, right now we have what we call milk sandwiches. A snowstorm threatens, so everyone runs to the store and buys 6 gallons of milk and 12 loaves of bread. Like, why? What are you going to do with it?
I always find it funny in those survival kits, they give you that cord that comes with a couple of key rings that you're supposed to attach to cut down and use as a saw. I tried one of those one time.
Those are not very good. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that. They're not very good whatsoever. Very disappointing. But
that's why I look at folding saws, yeah.
But you know what? It's one of those things, though, Michael, that, whether you're an expert at it or whether you're somebody who pays attention to it or not at all, there is a reality that comes along with survival. And we're not talking, Rocket Man launching, his nukes from North Korea here. We're talking, there's been a lot of disasters around the continent over the last 15, 16 months. And this is what we have to pay attention to. And it's funny because I remember talking to a lot of my friends and even talking to people on the air. They said, what can you do? What can we do for you to help you out? I said, I don't need anything, but do me a favor. Get a bug-out room. Have a bug-out bag ready. Because if that earthquake hits Vancouver or Seattle or Los Angeles or New York or anywhere up the eastern coastline, the majority of people will be affected negatively, if not die, because they aren't prepared. And that's what it comes down to.
You need some food, some water. You need actually both cash and a credit card with room on it, so that you can, acquire gas and hotel and food while traveling. A trailer is not really a useful idea. You want to be able to fit everything in one vehicle and take it with you. Strip down to what you need. A tent might be useful depending on what kind of how large an evacuation it is and what the odds of finding shelter. And then this time of year, if you're where we get winter, keep an extra coat in the car, heating elements in the car, fire making supplies in the car, flares, field jacket liner, survival blankets. You got to be able to stay warm if you break down, because one of the things anyone who's been in a hurricane evacuation will tell you is cars will break down. Someone will run out of gas, someone's car will overheat, and all of a sudden one lane of traffic isn't working. A couple of years ago, they had a snowstorm hit Chicago. And if you've never driven in Chicago, the moment the first snowflake appears, everyone slows down to 2 miles an hour. If they kept driving at a normal speed, road heat would melt most of the snow. But as soon as they see a snowflake, everyone drops to a crawl. The snow piles in, and in this case, Lakeshore Drive got snowed in with thousands of cars on it, and people had to just walk out and be transported out, and then come back slowly over several days to retrieve their vehicles. It closed the road, while the snow was in progress. You can always count on people to be stupid. Yesterday I went to the car wash just to wash the road salt off, and it's 4 lanes feeding in the car wash parking lot, and it says please alternate left to right, and people are cutting each other off and risking fender benders to get to their, I guess, emergency car wash. It's like, if they'll do that to the car wash, what are they going to do when their life is threatened, or if they think it is? They're going to drive like idiots. So ideally, you either want to get out ahead of the rush or after the rush, but before any disaster hits your immediate area, depending on the nature of it.
Well, it's funny because I said to a lot of my friends, what's your escape route? And they're like, well, what do you mean?
Your backup?
What do you mean? I said, well, what's your escape route if something happens? And a lot of my friends, because I just moved from the coast a couple of years ago to move up north here in British Columbia, where I feel a heck of a lot safer. But like I said to them, I said, what is your escape route in case something happens? I said, because I said, let's say an earthquake happens and a tsunami comes around and it sends water down the lower mainland, down the Fraser River, and starts flooding places. I said, how are you getting out? What is your escape route? And it's amazing how many people, all they think about was the major highway in Canada, which is Highway 1. I said, well,
Right.
you and about 1 million other people. How you getting out? And, I think it's the education.
Rely on my GPS.
Well, yeah.
One of the tests I have for people visiting here, we don't actually, depending on which GPS you're using, our house doesn't show on the map properly. There's a chunk of road that was closed 20 or 30 years ago, but one of the GPSs still thinks that section is open. So our section does not connect to that section. And I will always tell them, if your GPS tells you to take road X, it's wrong. You need to keep driving until you see road Y, turn there, and that connects to our section. And about a third of the time, they'll call up and say, yeah, well, I was, am I in front of your place? Because I'm next to this vineyard and there's a brown. No, you are on the wrong section. You turned to section X where I told you not to turn. Well, I followed my GPS. And I told you your GPS would be wrong. And they can't seem to grasp that, those maps don't know everything. And of course, if you get something like the earthquake in Japan where the entire country moved 75 feet, the GPS is going to tell you, move to the route on display. Because as far as it's concerned, you're in the wrong place. And it becomes totally useless.
I never really thought about that one. That's just simple mathematics.
Yeah, if it's that was a significant move. That was 75 feet, but 15 or 20 feet driveway to parking lot can do it. And all of a sudden, it's telling you need to get on the road. Well, I'm on the road. Well, no, you need to get on the road. To your left. That's a cornfield. I can't get on that.
Should people?
So paper maps are a good thing to keep with you.
Should people, in your mind, be prepared for something each season, or is it something that have a spring summer kit, maybe a fall kit as well, combined with that one, and have a separate winter kit?
Well, it depends on on what you get for winter. If you're in southern Texas, it's not nearly as bad as here, and I think we actually get colder than you because we're in the middle of the continent. But yeah, seasonal change is a good thing. It also gives you a chance to go through your kit and make sure everything's up to date. The packages are sealed. Stuff hasn't damaged, gotten eaten by mice, rotten under the seat from, spilled Coke or whatever. A year or so ago, my daughter and I were in a little town near here with a state highway going through it. And the truck ahead of us started smoking, and we pulled over, and I was going to grab the fire extinguisher to help, put the fire out, and I couldn't find the fire extinguisher in that vehicle. So we grabbed some water bottles, doused it a little, and the fire department showed up a couple minutes later before the tractor was wasted, but the van was intact and whatever they were hauling. And as we're driving off, I opened up one of the compartments and said, "There's the extinguisher." I had one in the car. It was charged, it was good to go, and I'd completely forgotten where it was because I hadn't paid attention to it since I put it in that vehicle. So periodically going through your stuff seasonally is a good idea. Check its quality and condition, check its availability, remind yourself what you have and where it is. If you're digging through your car and go, "Oh, I forgot that was here." That could be important. Last summer, because it's 2018 now, in the space of 10 days, we had a lightning strike, a tornado, and a flood. And I live on a hill, and we had a flood. So I was actually looking down onto the cornfield across the street, wondering if there was going to be a guy loading animals onto a boat. If I'm on a hill, my basement should, well, it's not really a basement. My lower level should not be flooding. But that's how much rain came down. The tornado came over the hill, broke a tree, which we've cut up for firewood, and touched down across the highway. The lightning strike actually hits the ground outside, managed to cook the D-slam for the internet, came in, cooked the surge suppressor, the backup, several of the computers, the garage door opener. It fried bunches of stuff in several houses. We had a bolt hit within probably 700 feet of the house. And there's 5 houses here, and every house had damage. And so this was in 10 days. It was bang, 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 one after the other.
See, up here, what I noticed about the forest fire is, believe it or not, and I couldn't believe that the police would do it but then again, I'm not sure we should be surprised what any police do at times when they're not using their heads here, for compassion reasons. I guess that's what I'm saying. We had a number of people have to travel 100 miles or more in order to get to the next evacuation site, okay, where the evacuation places were. And for some people who were taking their travel trailer or their boats or their ATVs or their skidoos with them, their trailers weren't insured. So the police were actually pulling over people who had trailers that were uninsured. And they weren't even caring about the whole idea that, you know what, we don't care that your house is on a forest fire. You should have let them burn rather than take them out. So, I mean, there was a lot of apprehension towards police from people in our area, not the local police that were helping out, but from other areas that were just being absolute idiots about this, and it was very difficult. So getting insurance on your vehicles or your trailers is key to any type of survival.
And so what's happening there is they're wanting to minimize the traffic, maximize the vehicles and people, which is obviously the right thing to do, without comprehending that, these people are hauling possibly their most valuable possession. And of course, in the case of a motorhome, they can also shelter in it if they're hauling something. Then down in Hurricane Katrina down in New Orleans, they had police from other jurisdictions in the National Guard, who the local police, who had authority, were sending around to confiscate people's weapons for safety, because, nothing makes you safer than having someone take your weapon away from you. And, I'm a collector. I've got a fairly extensive collection. I've got friends near here whose collections run literally into the millions of dollars. It's like, you're not taking my, in their case, you're not taking my retirement plan away from me for safety and telling me to, talk to some bureaucrat to get it back. And there was really no legal authority to do so, but the mayor decided it was a thing, and the police chief decided it was a thing, so it became a thing. And of course, there was no time for anyone to go to court and have a court say that's ridiculous. They actually had to pass a law countering that authority after the fact. Everyone's got a different motive in a disaster. The authorities have one motive. The individual has a different motive. The collective group of a mob or movement of people has another motive. And there's always going to be problems with that. As far as forest fires there, I don't have forest fires here because I live in nothing but corn and soybean country. Although we did have a drought a couple of years ago that risked grass fires. So you have to come up with a chart of potential disasters and how they affect you. Hurricanes are really not on my radar. Occasionally we'll get some heavy rain from the tail end of one that blows all the way inland. Ice storms are huge here. We typically don't get huge amounts of snow, but we get a lot of ice. The snow's north of us or south of us. We just get cold. Right now it's 4 or 5 below and dropping. And if it warms up and rains and then freezes again, which happens whenever the weather shifts, you can get enough ice on a tree to break it. And people skidding all over the place. And I've seen, I think Seattle, I saw an ice storm there on video where people were sliding down the road. It was hilarious to watch if you weren't actually, the one whose car was getting crushed in the process. Of course, earthquake is possible here. I'm near the New Madrid Fault. And if that cuts loose, there really isn't a backup plan because there's really nothing they can do. So the government's official policy is don't scare people about it because there's no precautions they can really offer. I used to live in Mississauga, and I recall sometime back after I left, they had a train car derailment and a ammonia leakage and hydrous ammonia leakage. And from everything I've heard, they actually pulled off a miraculous evacuation, got everyone out of the area as quickly as possible without a lot of stress. And they're one of the incidents that is studied for that kind of planning.
I know for a lot of people in this area, the hardest part to do was to trust other people. You know, for those of us who were still up here, I was separated from my family. My family happened to be on vacation down on the coastline and I was working up here when the fires occurred, and I got stuck up here because we were literally surrounded by forest fires. It was kind of freaky.
Right.
You know, it really was freaky when you're going on. But, I mean, out of all the goodness that we saw, there were a lot of people who were becoming very untrustworthy. Whether it was the police, you know, there were stories going around, you know, by the conspiracy theorists that cops were breaking into people's houses to see if there was marijuana grow-ops going on or how many weapons you had in your home. It didn't happen, but you know how conspiracy theorists work, you know, and people get freaked
even if
out.
it didn't happen, that type of stuff does happen, is the thing. So a lot of those, you know, you can look at a lot of these conspiracies if you follow them, how they develop, and they start off with a grain of truth, and then someone gets a little hypothetical as to how it could go, and somebody else misinterprets that as something that's actually happened, and then somebody has an unnamed source, somebody else fabricates something just because they think it'll be clever, and eventually you've got complete nuttery. But underneath, there sometimes is an element of truth that's relevant. And then, of course, the people who make money off this look for that, wait for that, promote that, exploit that, and then, you know, write something else based on it.
So the question then becomes, Michael, who do you trust then?
Mm-hmm. And that's anyone who's been in the military. If they've gone to the field or deployed, will tell you, you know, you have to trust the person next to you, even if you think they're a complete idiot, because you can't do their job for them. And at the same time, you have to be prepared to move into that slot or both slots and deal with it if they fail. You know, yeah. Who do you trust on the road? Well, you lock your cars every time you stop, right? Especially when I've traveled in Europe, whenever we stopped at a rest stop just for a bathroom and fast food, everything valuable goes in the trunk. Cameras, bags, everything that might possibly be valuable. The passenger compartment of the car is sterile. Because there's a lot of criminals, even in the nicer parts of Europe, the Netherlands and Germany, who will crack a window and grab whatever's handy, just in case it's valuable.
Absolutely. It is safety first, though.
Yeah, you have to trust people to an extent, but you have to be prepared to assume the worst at the same time. And everything is situational.
One of the things that I learned through this is you do see the best of people when it comes to this area. I mean, you know, I remember going into the food shelters, you know, when we were up here and grabbing bottles of water. And even though I felt I should have taken more, you just don't, because you're so concerned that your fellow citizen may need water for something else, you know. But I mean, it was pretty amazing. I know up here, I don't know if it happened in California this year, but I mean, they were literally dropping off pallets of water and pallets of dog food and cat food and saying, you know, take what you need. Like, don't worry about it, just take what you need. So there is some humanity that does come out of these natural disasters.
Yeah, when I was I worked on the Mississippi flood in 1993, it was a really big one, and I wasn't far from the area. They flew us in by helicopter near to St. Louis, and Anheuser-Busch and Miller both have large facilities in St. Louis. They have a production line that does nothing but put water into cans and bottles for emergencies. And then briefly they shut down all their beer production and turned it all into water. So the first thing that shows up is Budweiser cans with water in them. And of course the obvious joke is that you can't tell the difference. But we had entire trailer trucks showing up with water that we could hand out to people. And then they brought in tankers and storage tanks, and people could get as much water as they wanted. But early on, it was a gallon per person per day, and we'd have people show up with 6 or 8 people in the car of 3 different races. Oh, these are my 4 children. Like, man, if you need water, we'll give you water. Yeah, we're not going to deprive you of water. Please have some water. And the parking lot, it was a Keystone Cops parking lot when we first showed up. So the first thing we had to do was assign several soldiers, the task of directing traffic. They come in here, they park here, they get their water, they keep moving. Traffic cones, reflective vests. They were just driving in and parking in a complete shambles, and they couldn't get out because 3 people had parked behind them. And there was still water in town. They had a boil order because their water purification plant had been flooded by the river. So as long as they boiled it, the water was still perfectly safe to drink. And it was this complete meltdown. But, here's these 2 large companies donating all this water. We had several groups. The Red Cross showed up and was feeding everybody, including us, out of their plan. Lots of volunteers. People just showed up and said, what can I do? It's like, can you haul that stuff over there? Sure. So a lot of very helpful people, a lot of donations. We had several people just showed up and brought us food while we were working this water distribution point. As in, they brought us steaks. Someone actually showed up and donated us a grill, charcoal, and steaks, and said, here you go. And so we were fed while we were working. And then at the same time, there were people who were coming down, going to the casinos to gamble, and were basically engaging in disaster tourism. And they'd roll up late at night. Hey, can we get some of that Budweiser cans with water in it as a souvenir? No, sir, that's for people who need water. It's not a souvenir. Yeah.
I know there was one.
You get both extremes.
And then you get the people who try and take advantage of the situation. I mean, how many times have we heard of stores, Michael, who all of a sudden
being looted?
Not only being looted on one extreme, but on the other extreme, jacking up their prices. All of a sudden, a bottle of water is going for $5, and a case of water is $100, and gas all of a sudden jumps up. I mean, I know in Canada there have been people who try to do that, but our laws here are so strict against that kind of thing that they get put down pretty heavily and severely. I don't know how it is in the United States when it comes to that, but I have seen it happening on news broadcasts.
Yeah. And there's different things going on here. Sometimes if it's a small store, family run, depending on how high the prices are going, they're trying to make some money. And then, of course, they have to figure what's it going to cost them to get resupplied and how long are they going to be out of business and not making money before they can get a resupply, which is legitimate. There are people who are simply gouging because they can. They're jerks. So a lot of the stuff you plan ahead. And here we've got every groundbreaking tool known to man. We're out in the country, a small tractor. We've got plywood. We've got 2 piles of firewood about as tall as I am. I was 6 foot tall from when we had a tree taken out. And we just stacked it all up as firewood. Last year we had the furnace fail, and between the fireplace downstairs and the stove in the kitchen, we kept the house at 70 degrees in sub-zero weather for about 3 days. Planning ahead is ideal rather than waiting until the last minute. And then, of course, so this, some people are just trying to make every penny they can out of those poor yokels who are passing through. And the irony is that occasionally people doing that have forgotten to put aside supplies for themselves and then run out themselves in the process. Kind of a karma payback. But when you need a shovel on water, how much is it worth?
No, absolutely. And this is why you need to be able to really take care of your own. And so if you were to tell people how to set up a bug-out room or a bug-out closet, step by step, could you break down what should be in there?
Yes. Actually, a friend of mine lives not far from where you are. He's a Mountie. He says, last year during the ice storm, the fire department in Vancouver was giving out salt, and the people were selling the free salt via Craigslist. And I saw that on September 11th down here. People were there was a website, it was a clearinghouse for charitable groups who were taking donations for New York. And some of them only wanted particular name brands of clothing new in the package. Now, on the one hand, it could be that they're selling these in order to raise money that they're donating, or it could be that they're just selling those and pocketing the money. And even if it's a church, how reputable is this church? If it's an existing part of a organized church, it's probably legit, but not necessarily. If it's some little church no one's ever heard of that has no affiliation with any national entity, again, could be legit, but possibly not. And a friend of mine was actually working down near the Twin Towers, as in afterwards, doing recovery. And someone said, just load all this stuff in that truck. And while he was loading it, the cop came up and said, what are you doing? He says, I'm loading this stuff in the truck. Why? Because he told me to. The guy in question had literally brought up a semi and was stealing semi-loads worth of disaster supplies to go sell, using the volunteers to load it for him. So as far as setting up your survival room at home, first, what kind of disasters are you likely to face? There you've got earthquakes, forest fires, potential winter storms, hypothetically a tsunami if you're close enough to the coast, and you have an evacuation plan for that because there's really no arguing with a tsunami. Here it's ice storms, potentially droughts. So you need to make sure you have enough food and water for everyone. A year's worth of food is ideal. Most people can't manage that. Several months worth is good. At least a couple of weeks worth, and you can do that piecemeal just by buying extra canned goods and extra dry goods every time you shop, and an extra extra flat of cans. Get things you'll eat. Don't get lots of green beans and canned spinach that you're never going to eat. Beef stew, soup, things that are easy to prepare or can be eaten cold if you have to. Dried noodles, other things with a good shelf life. You can commercially buy the equivalent of military MREs, and I've eaten some of those as a test that were 25 years old that were still edible. I don't know how the nutritional value was, but they were edible. Water, hopefully you have a water supply on the premises. We've got a well that's very clean. You can get water out of the toilet tanks. You can get water out of the water heater if you have to. Most of the local bottling places for soft drinks will sell you a 30-gallon blue plastic food grade tub, cheap barrel that you can fill with water and a quarter cup full of bleach, and will store for years. And obviously, periodically, you should replenish these things. Use the canned goods, put new cans in. Use the dry goods, use the water, replace it. First aid kit, you need to be able to handle bleeding, breathing, shock. And if anyone needs medication, you need to build up a supply of those. Typically, you can, in the U.S., you can replace a prescription, 30-day prescription, on day 28. So if you plan ahead and go in the 2 days early for a year, you can build up a couple of months' worth of additional medication on hand, actually a year's worth if you have a couple of years. And then so that's food, water. If you need some way of staying warm, if you've got a fireplace in your house, that should try and be your safe room. And if you need to close off other doors, or there are stoves you can set up inside and run through a flue through a window that'll keep you warm. Again, if you live where it's cold. Everyone should have enough blankets, clothing, gloves, work gloves, sturdy shoes or boots. I've seen people trying to get out in flip-flops, and that just doesn't work. And then even if you're not an apartment, you need lesser stuff. But even if you're in a house in the suburbs, an axe, a saw, a hammer, electric chainsaw is not as good as a gas chainsaw, but whatever you have can be useful if trees collapse. Cutting through doors, depending on how bad the disaster is and how much damage there is. Enough cash and credit that you can fill up a vehicle with fuel and your supplies and run. Copies of your valuable documents or the actual documents themselves ready to take with you. If your house gets flooded and your birth certificates and passports and everything else are destroyed, that's going to take a long time to fix. So, waterproof safe on the second floor, or physically take them with you if you need to evacuate if possible. Certainly copies of them so you can prove who you are for any kind of recovery. Contact information written and laminated print it out on a printer, go to the office store and laminate it. Phone numbers for your relatives, friends. Because if the phone is not working or your phone goes dead or the network is down, eventually you don't have any way to contact them because you don't have that number memorized and you don't have a physical copy. I mentioned maps. Maps are a good supplement to GPS. GPS is useful, but the maps don't require power and often will show you a route that is less popular. And then for first aid supplies, you definitely want something, pressure bandages and pressure dressings for bleeding, something you can splint with, good painkillers, Motrin, aspirin for some people. Tylenol has some side effects that are not good after long term. If you have a reason to have prescription painkillers, then by all means do so. But of course, down here, we have a government that is terrified that somebody might have fun, so that can be difficult. But Canada, you can get Tylenol free, so have some of that on hand.
I prefer the extra strength, the hardcore stuff. That one works for me.
Mm-hmm. All this can be bought bit by bit. You go to the hardware store, get yourself an axe. You go to the food store, get yourself an extra flat of cans of stew. The beef stew is, very high energy food. Rice and beans take a little while to cook, but they store for a long time. Put some money aside. If you, one of the tricks I have is you fold the paper that has all your contact information on it, put a couple of large bills inside there, 20s, 50s, and then laminate that closed. You have to physically cut it open to get that money out, and it's not immediately visible to anyone who's rooting through your stuff. It's just a list of phone numbers. So it's money that, rather than leaving it in your wallet and, I just promised myself I won't spend it, but here's a really good deal. If you physically have to cut this package open to get the money out, it's likely to stay there. And then if you need to, you've got $50, $100. It'll get you a tank full of gas or possibly some lodging.
Well, I can tell you this. I was so unprepared. Literally, I showed up at my house with a buddy of mine, and about 5 minutes after we got to my house, my neighbor across the street, who is a volunteer firefighter fighting this blaze, sends me a text message that says, "Get out now." Mm-hmm. There's nothing more that's ever freaked me out than that moment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That was like, okay, this is real. And thankfully, we had other friends just driving by as they were heading north, stop by to help me load up 2 vehicles with everything. But, people don't understand the panic that goes on if all of a sudden the police knock at your door or the firefighters knock at your door and say, you've got 1 hour or 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. Now, luckily, I had 2 hours, and I was scrambling. Didn't know what the hell was going on. You know what I'm saying? And, I forgot a lot of things. I forgot underwear. How do you forget? Yeah. And I forgot pants. I had 1 pair of jeans. That's it for 15 days.
Socks are important too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I wouldn't forget my socks because I got a good sock collection.
And take a non-electronic means of entertainment: books, crossword puzzles, games, small folding games. And, small children will need comfort items. They will need their favorite toy, possibly 2 or 3 of them, possibly a backpack full of them. You might have to argue with the child on what exactly is mission critical. But they need something to reassure them that, it's a part of their home they take with them that reassures them that everything's okay. If they don't have that, then they're out of their depth. They have no idea what's going on. They have nothing to anchor them, and they get very unhappy. And when the small child is unhappy, everyone is unhappy.
Absolutely. My son was 4, when this happened. And it's funny how a child's mind works, and I think that's important in the survival process, because the biggest thing my son was worried about, and he is such a picky eater, but his biggest thing that he was worried about was our fridge burning. that we wouldn't have a fridge for food.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing how the children's brain works as they try and comprehend these adult situations.
One of the things you can do with small children, especially regarding fire, is when your fire extinguisher reaches low and needs replaced or recharged, is go outside, get a fire going, and show them how effective a fire extinguisher is. This also gives you a chance to practice. And it reassures them a lot that if they're, especially if they've seen fire on TV, the news of something horribly burning, it reassures them that a fire can be controlled, that a fire is not necessarily something to fear.
We only have about 30 seconds here before we got to hop out and take our first break. When we come back, we're going to continue with the survival, but on a different scale, because we're going to lead into sci-fi, which also leads to Michael's books. His website, michaelzwilliamson.com. So for you Americans, I'll translate that, michaelzwilliamson.com. We got to do that around here. It's just the way we do things. But, the main thing is, I want you to check out his site. He's got some absolute fabulous books. You can find them all over in bookstores, online, order them from his website. I highly suggest you do, because this is an author that is not just one genre. Many different genres that you might want to check out, from military to the rogues of hell. It's going to be absolutely great. Check it out, michaelzwilliamson.com. We got one more hour with Mikey. We'll be right back right after this break.
Hey, space travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on spacedoutradio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience. Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, it's the first Friday of the month, which means it's the return of R. Keith Andrews, our resident ET expert. We're going to talk disclosure. We're going to talk UFOs, aliens, and how we could be prepared for it. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as well. We're also live on the Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Yeah, Vernalagnia. Is that it? Vernalagnia. I think that's it. Vernalagnia. is your password. Make sure you set it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you head on over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Read up on the encounter online. Watch great videos from UFO seekers and Contact TV. We're also all over social media on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show, and so much more. We're all over the place, so keep it up. Keep sharing the show the way you're going. It's awesome. Tonight, we are talking with author Michael Z. Williamson. His website, michaelzwilliamson.com. He is a multiple award-winning author, and the book we're going to be talking about here in hour number 2 is Battlefield Earth 21st Century Edition. But before we do that, we bring Michael back in here for a moment. Michael, thank you so much.
Sure, good to be here.
In hour number 1, we talked a lot about survival and what would happen if something natural happened, earthquakes, flooding, forest fires, so on and so forth, that people should be prepared for and how they need to prepare. Now, when I look at things, too, here is something that I think people are not preparing for that could cause a lot of emotion and frustration with the public around North America, and that is with UFO disclosure. There has been UFO disclosure happen in December, just a couple weeks before Christmas. You know, a lot of people are still trying to figure out if it's true disclosure or just what the government wants us to see and how they want us to see it at this time. My fear of everything is that if the entire Pandora's box is opened up, how are people really going to react? I mean, we saw how people react when the stock market crashed in 2008. People were jumping out of high-rise buildings because they've lost everything. They're jumping off of bridges. Suicide was rampant. And now we're talking about the second biggest story in mankind's history, besides Jesus Christ himself coming down from the heavens, of alien life visiting this planet. How do you expect people to react and remain calm if all of a sudden aliens start arriving?
Well, you saw Independence Day, right? I mean, half of them are going to shoot at the alien spacecraft, and half of them are going to welcome them and wish to get on board. I mean, people are going to act like people because that's what people do. It's such a thing. It would be staggering. People would, very few people would know exactly what to do. And as our experience when a more advanced culture meets a less advanced culture is that the less advanced culture is basically destroyed in the process, whether intentionally or not, simply from new technology changing how everything functions for them. So there's a variety of issues there. I was the military consultant for when Discovery Channel did Alien Invasion. Things we discussed were there's a variety of reasons why alien invasion per se is really not that likely, because if you have that kind of power, you don't really need to invade another planet. You can produce everything you need in space. Which isn't to say that we understand the motives of another species and why they may want to do so anyway. And of course, if they do, then there's Earth cities are where they are for specific geographic reasons that are probably consistent with other species, because you need water for transport, waste disposal, and such. All our big cities are on major rivers or near oceans. So if they were planning on moving in, they would try to use non-destructive lethality, bioweapons, chemicals against people to clear the area without actually destroying the physical structure, and preferably something slightly slow enough acting that we have a chance to bury people as we go. Because even if diseases are not compatible, toxins such as botulism and others are really casual about what your body chemistry is. So there's a variety of ways such a thing could play out. You mentioned Battlefield Earth, which has been re-released. That was written by Yvonne Hubbard, and I read that when it came out. And that's set 1,000 years or so after an alien invasion. And they basically wiped out humanity for the purpose of exploiting the planet and mining the crust. And the way it was laid out was, given the background, was very believable. They just brushed humanity aside and then ignored us for the purpose of getting to all those resources, which they were able to transport out, en masse. And eventually the humans, through dint of a few motivators, managed to recover their knowledge and become an adversary and eventually recover the planet. But it doesn't take that many large bombs if your goal is simply to get rid of the human infestation, as it's described in some scenarios, to completely disrupt the economy, the ecology, and human population.
Do you think the public is ready for the emotion and the tribulation that any potential, peaceful or not, alien invasion could be?
No, I would say not. I know we discussed things that are known potential threats, such as meteorite impacts. A couple of years ago, we had that big fireball over Russia that shattered windows throughout the city and injured numerous people. And we know that meteorite impacts happen all the time. In the last 5 years, I've cited 3 fireballs and reported them to the database that tracks those. There's smaller impacts. There's been some in Canada in the last decade. We know that a large impact is inevitable at some point. And there's been movies done about this, and an associate of mine worked in support for one of those movies. I can't remember which one. But he said, yeah, but it's never going to happen. It's like, dude, it is inevitable that a meteorite is going to impact the Earth big enough to cause damage. When is the question? Happening in our lifetimes, statistically unlikely, but certainly I can give you numbers for it. But it is inevitable that at some point within the next few million years, there's going to be a major impact that would be very, very disruptive. And people are, it's never going to happen. And they say that about everything.
Do you think it's a naivety of people that it could never happen to them?
It's a comfort zone. They want to think that things the way they are pretty comfortable. The whole thing with climate change. Climate change is happening. Climate change has been happening. It's not going to wipe out humanity. But the presentation in the press is that, oh my God, it's going to be a quarter of a degree warmer, or 2 degrees warmer, and it's been that within the last 1,000 years, and it could get warmer, and eventually there are environmental effects from that. But the Earth has survived it; life forms have survived it, and since I did a time travel story, I did a bunch of research into the Paleolithic, and my wife's minor in school was paleoanthropology. The current climate optimum post glaciation is when all of our technology developed, and there were some recent finds of civilizations that were earlier than the Egyptians that apparently got wiped out around the same time as the 8.2 kiloyear event, which was a climactic drop in temperature. And they're still not sure of the exact cause. It may have been an impact or it may have been volcanic, but there was a sudden change in the climate, and this hypothetical competitor to the Egyptians as far as technology went 5,000 years earlier just stopped because they had to resort to putting all their effort into getting food. So these things happen, but you tell people that, the climate's going to change a couple of degrees, and it's a panic because it won't be the same as it is now. And people get comfortable and they like things the way they are.
Comfortability aside, though, do you think that the implications that could happen rather than a financial crash or a natural disaster, do you think the implications would be worse with disclosure coming true and the public not being able to handle it?
Definitely as bad, certainly potentially worse. I mean, some people will see them as, without any information whatsoever, will see them as saviors. Some will see them as conquerors. Some will recognize the massive impact it will have on society. Some will try and take over. Some will assume that they have the key to everything, and they have to be the one who talks to these aliens. And it won't just be the leadership who does that. And then, of course, the leadership will have its own fight over who is worthy to talk to mankind. Is it certain nations? Is it the nation they first are present in? Is it the UN? Is it NATO? There'll be a whole political fist fight over that. So yeah, it would be. I guess it would be interesting to watch, but I'm not sure I really want it to take place.
I got a question coming from one of our audience members, Everett, and he is asking, Michael, what do you think about keeping precious metals on hand just in case a government collapses and the money has no value?
Actually, even if the government doesn't collapse, massive inflation can happen in otherwise stable countries and has. Mexico had that. Argentina had that. And then, of course, Zimbabwe isn't actually the worst example in history, but it's the one we have now. The precious metals tend to keep their value. They don't go up a lot. They don't go down a lot, other than local inflationary matters. 100 years ago, a $20 gold piece would buy you a good handmade suit, and today that same $20 gold piece, the value of it will buy you a good handmade suit. A silver quarter is worth about a gallon of milk, and has been for a long time. So yeah, they're a very good hedge against any kind of disaster. The issue you have is, though, that they're useful after things have collapsed. I've had people who want to, and I'm happy to trade for silver or gold. But you can't expect a gas station attendant to understand that a silver quarter is magically more valuable than any other quarter. To him, it's a quarter. To the guy who owns the gas station, it's a quarter. They're not going to give you, a gallon of gas because that quarter is silver rather than just a regular quarter. Unless you, manage to persuade one of them individually, in which case he puts the cash into the till. People will rely on cash because, again, it's comfortable and they're used to it. And it has, U.S. government printed on it, and that makes it good. But if things do start collapsing, if inflation gets rampant, which I don't think is likely at the moment, but eventually is inevitable in any society, then the precious metals become a very useful item of barter because they've kept their value. And old silver quarters, nickels and not nickels, old silver quarters, dimes, halves, and dollars. Small silver bars, 1 ounce, 5 ounce. You can get 100-ounce bars at a really good price from a couple of places that I have used and endorse, but it's hard to swap a 100-ounce bar of silver or a $1,300 gold ounce coin when all you need is some ammunition and gas. The silver coins are immediately recognizable, hard to fake, and much easier to use.
Let's move on to Battlefield Earth. It was a winner of the 2017 Audie Award and was nominated in 2 categories for excellence in marketing and excellence in production. So obviously this was a very high-quality book. The original, released in 1982, was an international bestseller, selling 4 million copies, as I remind our audience about this fantastic book. Tell us about the 21st Century Edition, released June 2016.
Yeah. New cover art, very good cover art. It's very reminiscent of both the original and of the 1950s pulp flavor that Hubbard was trying to capture in that book. At the time, I was voraciously reading sci-fi, and it looks interesting, and it was really thick. It's 700-800 pages, maybe 1,000 pages. It's a big book. And, it was a lot of fun to read. The lead character is very accessible, very engaging. He's a young man who has been doing things his own way and realizes that he inadvertently managed to avoid radioactive contamination that a lot of other people have been getting just by taking different routes to places he was going. Eventually infiltrates the alien society almost as a pet, and then develops information and technology and learns how to beat them. And, there's a bit of melodrama to that, but it's a story we like reading, the young boy who becomes the hero. And so it was a very entertaining read. The Audible version has 40-some actors, sound effects. It's basically an old-style radio play. It's not just somebody narrating the book. There's sound effects, there's music, there's characters interacting, and that won the award because it's very, very well produced. And it's 47 hours, so if you do a lot of driving, this will avoid you having to skip songs or press repeat for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as alien invasion and disaster runs, the whole way through the book, because that's what the disaster was an alien invasion. And, the humans are starting off in a non-literate Stone Age, bordering on Iron Age culture, and are scattered and have no significant communication with each other, with the different groups, which makes it, very difficult.
What do you think the public's fascination is, whether it's movies or books, that the public has an absolute love affair with anything to do with aliens in a sci-fi role?
It's the unknown. That gives us an opportunity to explore things that are completely different from ourselves. And then, depending on the approach, John W. Campbell, when he was the editor and publisher of Analog magazine, Astounding before that, always insisted that, the humans were going to go out there and show the aliens who was boss. And there was no dispute that was absolutely how it was going to be. And that was the type of story he'd publish, for the most part. But that's not always the case. There's been, historically, Europeans did very well when they went elsewhere, but other groups interacted with each other, and sometimes the discoverer was the one who came out on the short end. But yeah, people like the unknown, the opportunity to explore completely different interactions. I did a First Contact story where we find aliens who are hypothetically Stone Age because they don't have ready access to metals on their planet. The book is Contact with Chaos. But just because they don't have ready access to exploitable metal ores doesn't stop them from having selective breeding, distillation, chemistry, and other skills. So they've got, what we would consider elaborate fireworks, but are nevertheless effective short-range rocket artillery. And they've got ceramic tools rather than knapped stone. They have water wheels. They've got a fairly significant 19th century technology, even without using metal.
Do you believe then that people are so ensconced with books like Battlefield Earth that because the possibility that it could come true is what gets people buying books like this?
Yeah, absolutely. This could be true, but they usually want a happy ending. I've read very few books and I've seen very few movies where the humans come out on the short end, and those are disturbing, as they should be, because it could potentially mean the extinction of our species. So people want a happy ending where the good guy comes out ahead, gets the girl, all that kind of stuff. Even most horror movies eventually end up with a positive ending.
So never trip, because that's when bad things happen. That's the only thing I've learned from horror movies, man, is never trip.
Yeah. I saw one where somebody has a gun, and the first thing they do is show this gun to everybody, who then insists they hide it under the couch so they don't get hurt. It's like, well, if you have a gun, why don't you just sit in the corner with the gun, waiting for the sheriff to show up and shoot anything that isn't the sheriff?
So what did you have to do with the re-release of Battlefield Earth?
Nothing much, really. I've known the Galaxy Press guys for a long time. I go to conventions where they are. I hang out with them.
Mm-hmm.
They do a chili cook-off every year at the Los Angeles Sci-Fi Convention.
Mm-hmm.
They promote books. Galaxy Press runs the Writers of the Future contest, which discovers new writing talent and has for about 30 years, I want to say. They let people submit stories. They publish the best ones, and they announce a winner, and there's a prize. And a lot of those writers have gone on to have relevant careers with multiple books. So they offer a lot of opportunity there. They've invited me to the banquet next year. I don't know if I'll be able to have the time available. I'd certainly enjoy being involved in judging some of that at some point.
We had John Godwin on in August of last year, or early September, just after Jim Mars had passed away, who was one of the top writers with Galaxy Press. There's a lot of people out there who will write books, whether they're published or not. Majority of books now are not published. They're by a company. Right. They're self-published. How has this affected the self-publishing affected what you do?
I mean, it hasn't really. There are different markets, and I've got a couple of titles that I self-published because they were not something that was going to interest a large publisher. If it's a niche field or a niche story, it may not appeal to a large publisher, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the story. And if you have the means to reach the market, then you can sell, hundreds, occasionally thousands, occasionally superstar levels of sales from doing it yourself. Yes, especially if it's something that's hard for them to categorize into how do we market this, is often an issue. And my anthology, I actually had a couple of authors who'd only done self-published stuff beforehand. This was the first time they were theoretically pro-published. But a couple of them make a living at it, self-publishing. And, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the quality of their stories. They were very good stories. So, ideally you have somebody else who does all the promotion, layout, production, distribution, sales, marketing, and all that. And, you get a lesser percentage, but you sell more books. But self-publishing, you get a bigger cut of the pie. So even if you sell fewer books, you still might come out, reasonably well. Lorena McKennett, folk musician, self-publishes all her stuff, and she has sold millions. After he got famous, Prince started selling producing all his own stuff, and still managed to sell, hundreds of thousands of copies while keeping half the money rather than 10% of the money. So there are all different ways of getting to market, and it all depends on what you've got. And then, of course, you take any famous politician, whether or not they can write, whether or not their ghostwriter can write, their book will sell millions of copies, and any publisher will jump on it because they know it's a moneymaker. So there's not necessarily, quality is not necessarily the deciding factor. Marketability is.
Do you find, though, that people are still buying books? Because a lot of writers who I have talked to say that, places like YouTube and other channels like that and social media have really killed the love for people buying books anymore, going to bookstores.
I haven't found that. A lot of the smaller bookstores have disappeared. There's still a few independents. Barnes & Noble is still out there. A lot of the others, Borders had all kinds of management issues and went away. I'm seeing more electronic sales of my books rather than paperback. The collectors want the hardcovers. A lot of people will buy both the hardcover and then buy an electronic copy to read. There's still people who buy paperbacks both in stores and online. And then the electronic ones, of course, pay faster because that money goes immediately to the publisher rather than having to go through a bookstore, through a distributor, and then to the publisher, which can take months. So I've enjoyed it. It's been a nice boost. But my sales are still improving pretty much with every book. And most of my contemporaries with Baen haven't noticed any slacking off at all. People who read tend to read a lot, and if more books become available at reasonable prices, they just buy more books. It's not a case of they, only buy certain. They'll certainly go for their favorite authors first, but they will absolutely buy other stuff if they think it'll be interesting. Just like when film came out, it didn't destroy live theater. Live theater still exists, and there's been a couple of recent Broadway productions that were $60-70 million in production costs, and they made money. Now, the movies make a lot more money. There's movies that make billions, but theater didn't, theater didn't disappear. It just became, less accessible to the mass crowd. But the fans remained, and it's doing as well as it did. And then when home played movies came out, originally VCR and then Laserdisc, the panic was that was going to destroy the theater industry. People still go to movies. Star Wars is still raking in money in the theaters. So it's all just different formats, different media will develop different fan followings, and some will be more profitable than others, but that doesn't mean that there's necessarily any reduction in the fan base of the others.
Do you consider yourself fortunate, then, that you were absolutely able to have a successful career off of this?
I had the best year of my life in all regards, as far as publishing, reviews, income, family life. This last year was a really good year for me, and I'm very happy. And the fans who buy lots of books are a big part of that, because I managed to my consults and my part-time job selling knives and swords at conventions and historical reenactments sort of covers the floating bills during the year. But when the royalties come in, that's when I take care of things like paying off the car, upgrading stuff at the house, and the last couple of checks have come in, the last 4 or 5 semi-annual checks. It's like, wow, that's a lot of money from a middle class perspective. I'm not J.K. Rowling and never will be, but
no, not many of us are, man. Not many of us are. But
she makes like $87 million a year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Of that action, I'd be very happy. But and more power to her.
I would like a quarter of that. An eighth of it would even be.
I'm not greedy.
Yeah. Why
but,
be greedy?
She got and she got kids reading, and she got kids enthused about books. And I've seen a couple of the movies. They were entertaining. They were well done. She deserves every penny she's made, and I will never even approach that. But I'm certainly doing well enough that I'm very happy. And it's the fans who make it possible, because they're constantly, when's the next book? When's the next book? When's the next book? It will be on my website as soon as it's even potentially available.
How many books are
next month?
How many books a year are you putting out?
I would like to put out 2 a year. I've been doing about 1 a year recently. The first 2 years I did 5 books. Part of the problem is I've got a small child running around here, which takes a lot of time. It's delightful time, but it's not writing time. And then we moved a couple of years ago, had some family issues which got resolved, so all that hindered the writing. And then I like stuff that takes a lot of thought, but that means a lot of research, and research takes time. It's both enjoyable and frustrating, is that the straight-up action adventure I write of people blowing stuff up sells better than any of the more intellectual stuff I write. And I enjoy writing the shoot-'em-ups, but I also like writing stuff that takes thought and research. I'm trying to alternate them.
Question from Gail here in the SOR Space Travelers group. She is asking, how the aliens behave towards us initially will dictate a lot of the public's response. Do you, Michael, advocate our government, as in the U.S. government, having an alien public response protocol in place, if there isn't one already?
Yeah, on the one hand, someone has to. On the other hand, the government will screw it up. I mean, someone's got to be the spokesperson or spokes group for at least a regional or national level. Hypothetically, for everybody. That do we really want the UN, where every third world dictator gets a vote, having a say in that. And regardless of which president's in charge, half the population is going to go, "Oh God, not him," being our spokesperson. And then when the bureaucrats get involved, there's going to have to be a policy and a chairperson and an environmental this and cultural that, and the best you can hope for is that nothing actually gets done. But she's absolutely right. How the aliens present, regardless of how they are, will color a lot of things. You may be familiar with a famous story called "To Serve Man."
Yes, sir.
Which has been which was mentioned in Madagascar and The Simpsons and bunches of other places, where the book "How to Serve Man" turns out to be a cookbook at the end of the story. Yeah. They wanted to end war and make sure we had plenty of food and were well taken care of, so they could eat us. I don't think that particular scenario itself is at all likely, but the warning in the message is very valid. Any aliens who show up are showing up for their benefit and purposes, not for ours. Even when missionaries went out among the natives, it was for their own benefit, not for the benefit of the natives, ultimately.
You bring up a good topic that we're going to try and figure out how to do this on the show, but there's a lot of people talking, strangely, maybe it's just coincidence, about how, the Simpsons have been able to almost tell the future in certain events.
It's uncanny. On their presidential comments, their some of their social commentary. Yeah, it's staggering. And hilarious and sobering. And then I also remember when the movie Demolition Man was a ludicrous satire. And then a few years ago, we had it on disc, and my teenage kid says, "Can we watch that?" And I go, "Oh, sure." So we take it out and we all watch it. And I'm going, I don't remember this movie being so uncannily accurate as to modern society.
Well, apparently it's happened 21 times, according to BuzzFeed. You want to go through the list?
I'll go through some of them. Let's hear this. Yes.
All right. Well, there was
Trump was president.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that one. In 1999, radiation spawned mutant tomatoes. Remember, Homer created Tomako? And then in 2013, deformed vegetables reportedly pop up around Japan nuclear plant.
Okay.
And then there was Homer's voting machine changed his vote, which happened in 2012.
Uh-huh.
And
it probably happened before that, too, though. That was...
In 1995, an entire lemon tree was stolen from The Simpsons, and in Houston, it happened in 2013. An entire lemon tree? That's not really a big one.
You have to wonder if someone was inspired. Yeah, they might have been inspired by The Simpsons.
In 1995, Lisa's future fiancé could verbally communicate with his watch. And, of course, there's the smartwatch now, where you just talk into your hand.
Yeah. Well, that's been a sci-fi staple since the 50s.
Mm-hmm. In 1996, televangelists worship the almighty dollar. And then, in 2013, the Pope attacks global economics for worshiping God of money.
Well, there were televangelists making, money for a long time, who obviously were more in on the money.
Absolutely. And let's see here. I'm just scrolling through the good ones here. In 1994, an Apple product wasn't always sure what its owner was trying to say, and they actually had an Apple phone where you wrote on it with a pen. Well, of course, now you have Siri, and the way Apple has developed the iPhone.
The Newton existed back then, yeah. And, any of those gadgets. My new phone has some issues, but the previous one couldn't even get my wife's name right, which is Jess. Jess is not a hard name.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. Let's see here. Let's see. In 1995, a future dorm room had a Rolling Stones tour poster for 2010, which the Stones did a tour in 2012, so it's 2 years off.
Yeah, but Keith Richards is never going to die.
No. It's amazing how he still lives.
Every time a rock star dies, he experiences the quickening.
Do you believe, but that leads into a real interesting point, because there is that whole rock and roll rumor, and I realize this is going way off topic here, but there is that whole rock and roll legend that the Stones sold their souls, or on the life of, who was the one that died, Brian somebody, to the devil for eternal life, and in return, they have to keep doing these tours. I mean, they're like 76 and 77 years old now. It's ridiculous.
I mean, they're not. Yeah, I mean, if they're still doing it at 100, I'll start to wonder. But they are getting old.
In 1993, Gunter and Ernst were attacked by one of their tigers. Of course, that happened with Siegfried and Roy.
Yeah, inevitably.
I think that one could just be, something that was interesting. In 1995, they were saying future phones had video capabilities. Now we have FaceTime as of 2010.
Yeah. But again, that was a sci-fi staple for a long time.
Yes. Then, of course, the Donald Trump ones, which were kind of cool, too.
Yeah. I don't think anyone, I was very surprised at how that election turned out. It was just like, wow, that was unexpected. It looked like it was unexpected for him, too. He looked very sober and surprised that he actually won.
You know what? I still don't think he wanted to win. I think he was doing this for a goof and to drain the swamp, so he was saying. But I don't think in the end that he was prepared to win.
Point. I don't think he actually intended to win. Yeah. But I mean, a lot of them is a lot of presidents. It's like their only purpose in winning was so that they could be president. I'm not going to name names, but we can all pick 2 or 3 that, hey, ain't I cool? I'm now president. And, well, that puts you in charge. So please do some leadership. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's totally weird. But let's get back to sci-fi here. What still intrigues people to this day about science fiction?
We can always look at futures that we haven't had yet, and say all these things on The Simpsons. A lot of them were sci-fi staples. A lot of them, the Simpsons were being science fiction or speculative fiction. What happens if is a big thing. And the important thing in good sci-fi isn't predicting the technology, it's predicting how the technology affects the people. Predicting the automobile wasn't that hard. Once locomotives came along, it was pretty much inevitable that at some point there would be a small enough scale thing that individuals could have them. Predicting how the automobile would change dating habits, because young people could get away from the chaperones, was a big thing. TV was predicted multiple times. None of the people writing about TV in the 30s and 40s predicted that there would be one in every room of the house that people would watch 8 or 10 hours a day, largely for entertainment, with really fluffy, repetitive, formulaic shows. They saw it as being used for teaching in the classroom, which it is, and for news, which it is. And I'm sure that some of them thought that entertainment would be on there. But the idea of having hundreds of channels of, very specifically themed information, lots of it poorly researched, lots of it strictly background noise, was something they never considered. Computers, once computers became small enough to move into houses, very few people foresaw computers being in everything. I mean, right now I've got 2 laptops, my desktop, and my phone within reach. And you can support a lot of gadgets. And that wasn't anything that was taken, had a lot of notice. Murray Leinster, sci-fi writer, in 1949 had a story where he predicted, it was a logic named Joe is the name of the story. He predicted that computers would be in every house, every office, every business, every industrial facility, and that they would all be connected basically like telephones. So you could use them for communication and for accessing the library, which would have everything stored electronically, and for managing factory production lines, which was amazingly prophetic for what we have now. And the story revolves around a semi-AI, semi-virus that threatens to take out large chunks of this network, which is a legitimate fear these days. And occasionally DDoS attacks slow down large chunks of it. But that was 1949, and 70 years later, you go, wow, that was very impressive. No one else had mentioned that in any fashion whatsoever. Even some of the greats like Asimov had talked about having computer networks, but not in every single house and not being faced with electronic threats that could damage them, and how if that happened, entire chunks of society would have issues. We just had our internet down for a week and we're using our phones as hotspots. And the 3-year-old was very unhappy that she couldn't get Netflix and watch all her favorite shows, and had to rely on an antenna for PBS. And of course, these days PBS has limited commercials. But when commercials came on in the middle of her shows, boy, was she unhappy. That's not supposed to happen. Very minor side effects, but the internet goes down and I can't work.
Oh, trust me, my 4-year-old, man, it amazes me how well he can work his Netflix and his YouTube in order to get his favorite nursery rhymes or songs, or, well, now it's Transformers on everything. God, I've never seen a kid so excited about Transformers. But it's amazing how easy he works it. He's even stolen my iPad so he can watch Transformers on his own.
My son got issued a tablet in school for homework and that. And then I had, I'm the old guy here, I'm 50. I had to show him, it's like, well, all your class schedules and homework assignments and everything else in the program is available right here on the school website. So you don't have to remember what your homework was. You can look it up right there. And can we? I'll paraphrase the time travel story I've got. It's two convoys. It's two vehicles of troops on convoy who suddenly find themselves in the Paleolithic. It's a long time until now. And side note, one of the complaints I have from people who were never in the military was, well, no nation's grunts are that educated. Like, I beg to differ. But one of them's a trained computer person, one's a trained linguist, a couple of them are experienced hunters, one the officer's an engineer, and so with the resources they've got in 2 trucks, they manage to keep themselves alive, fed, and interact with the natives. And at one point, the senior NCO, who knows a little bit about history and is an experienced blacksmith and is hoping to do iron reduction, is going, for 30 minutes with Wikipedia and a memory stick. That's all he wants. 30 minutes of online time with access to a generic encyclopedia and a memory stick, and he'd have all the information he needed. And we have that level of resource available to us, and most people use it for posting kitten pictures and yelling F you at each other. I avoid Twitter. Twitter's for nothing but twits. There's no way to have a intelligent discussion in 140 characters. And if you want to, here's my new book, link, it's fine for that. But the idea of debating in that format is just stupid. And I try very hard to avoid getting sucked in.
It is difficult. It is very difficult. I mean, it's funny that you bring that up, because in the next hour we're actually going to be discussing trolls and online bullying and things like that, because I had a situation after the show last night in one of our chat rooms that we follow here, where a guy just went off for no reason. And I'm a pretty chill and lax dude, man, and I was finding myself getting pretty fired up about it. There's, and when I get set off, it's like, okay, it's go time. But I mean, how do you make it go time? Like, this guy was literally challenging me to a fist fight anywhere in the United States. I'm like, are you serious? I said, what are you, 12? Seriously, are you 12? So we're going to be getting into that. So, I mean, it's amazing how the internet has spawned an entire generation or more of online bullying and harassment.
Right. And then not just the bullying and harassment, there's also the attempt to manipulate the message. And Twitter especially is bad for it. They think if they bleat something loud enough, often enough, that will somehow beat the ruling of a court or the decision of some other kind of official process. Everyone knows that so and so is guilty or so and so is innocent. Larry Correa, a friend of mine who writes contemporary urban fantasy very well, with lots of guns in it. Another author was accusing him of being this horrible racist, said all these racist things at his panels at Gen Con. And Larry throws down and says, well, every one of those panels was recorded, so let's pull up the videos and look, and you tell me where I said these things. And all of a sudden, the tone dropped away. But the attempt was to manipulate a message and hurt his career by accusing him of things. And the accusation is all that's important. The accusation is more important than proving the fact. So-and-so, I had someone apparently went to the independent bookstore in Toronto and got my books removed because I am a huge racist and homophobe. And there's nothing I have ever written anywhere to that effect. But, they went and they took it upon themselves to go to this bookstore and have my books removed by the owner because I was a horrible person. And even if that were true, there's lots of horrible people out there in acting, in writing, in art. And to a certain level, child molesters and murderers aside, you have to excuse the personality in favor of the art. If a person is actually individually, violent and harmful to others, then, that might be a criteria for me. But the fact that I don't like somebody's ideas or the things they say, if I didn't interact with people because of that, I'd never interact with anyone. I'm pretty opinionated and pretty firm myself. So.
We only have a couple minutes left with you, about 3.5 minutes left with you tonight, and I want to say thank you so much for being with us tonight, Mike. It's been a lot of fun. Well, I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Tell us about your latest book, what it's about. Go into a little bit in depth, and then let our audience know where they can find all of your written work, so that way they could go purchase it themselves.
Okay. Well, michaelzwilliamson.com is my website. You go there, and that links, and I get a small percentage of the sale back from Amazon if you buy from Amazon. As far as I know, all the major bookstores in Canada have my books. All the major bookstores in the U.S., New Zealand, Australia, the UK, the American Book Center in the Netherlands does. The last one is Forged in Blood, which is an anthology I managed. I put together a timeline, assigned stories or sections of the timeline and how the people write, including Larry Correa, Tom Kratman, and Tony Daniel, who also write for Bain Books. They've got established careers themselves, and then bunches of up-and-coming and slightly lesser-known authors who are certainly very, very accomplished. It's up for an editing award, and thus I want it to win because they deserve the credit. I don't like reading my own books. I like reading this one because I didn't write most of it, and it's very well done. I'm very happy with it. I have a collection called Battle's Tide coming out in July, which has previously published short stories, some snark, and some of my politically offensive cocktails. Whenever a celebrity dies or an incident happens, I come up with a cocktail for it. And the ideal offensive cocktail is both delicious and offensive at the same time. Example from the previous book, the Whitney Houston, which is rum, Kahlua, brown sugar, Coke, and cracked ice. I've got a short story coming out in a Tony Daniels anthology, Star Destroyers, next month. David Drake is also in that book, several others. Some really big names are in there, and I'm actually really pleased to be in association with them. And it's all stories of space combat. And then we were talking about Battlefield Earth, which is available at battlefieldearth.com or galaxycrest.com. And so they do the Writers of the Future anthology, which has stories from writers who frequently turn out to have extensive careers once they're discovered, and that's always worth reading. There's been some amazing fiction in that. My publisher site is BAEN, Baen.com, Baen Books. Distributed through Simon & Schuster, so they're in every bookstore, pretty much everywhere. And they don't care about a writer's politics. All they care about is that the story is well delivered. So at one end, we've got Tom Kratman, who's very, very conservative, retired military officer and war college instructor. And at the other end is Eric Flint, who is a Trotskyite union organizer. They're both really good guys and really good writers. And amusingly, when you get them in person, they actually agree on quite a few things, even though they're theoretically diametrically opposed. And of course, any book you're buying is supporting the author, and is appreciated.
Wonderful. Michael, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. A pleasure to have you with us. And coming up in hour number 3, we're going to get into these trolls, bullies, and whatever. I got some venting to do in hour number 3. I hope you stick around. The Preacher is joining us as well, so we'll be right back with Eric Markham and myself heading into hour number 3 of the show.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
There's stories, then there's the truth. Do any of us really trust the news anymore? This is Jamie Sexton, owner of Rebel Planet News. The third Thursday of every month, I appear on SpacedOutRadio.com to bring you the truth you deserve, without mainstream media lies or alternative media fear-mongering. We'll get to the heart of the story and deliver the truth you're seeking. So come join us here for the Rebel Planet at SpacedOutRadio.com.
We're lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to SpacedOutRadio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4 Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, it's the first Friday of the month, which means our Keith Andrews is back with the ET Connection. We are going to be talking about UFOs, disclosure. A lot has happened since the last time we had Keith on. We're going to get his points of view on everything starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live on the Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio to Las Vegas. And if you are listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Vernalagnia. Vernalagnia is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. What the hell is Vernalagnia? Seriously, Bill. Where do you come up with these? But he sets a password. Hey, we're all over social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Make that youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Almost gave you the old channel there. We have a brand new one. And we're on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Shop at the Spaced Out Radio store. You can read the encounter online or watch videos from UFO seekers and Contact TV and so much more at spacedoutradio.com. Now, for hour number 3, we bring in the preacher, Eric Markham. But before we do that, we want to say thank you to our guest for the first 2 hours, author Michael Z. Williamson, or if you're in the United States, Michael Z. Williamson. You know, I'm still part of the Commonwealth, man, so I got to go with the Canadian way. And, you know, we talked everything from survival to science fiction. We hit a plethora of topics with him. So that was all good, and we say thanks to Mike for coming in for those 2 hours. But now we bring in the preacher, a resident scientist of Spaced Out Radio. Good friend of mine, good friend of yours, the preacher, Eric Markham. Preacher, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going? Glad to be here.
Me too, man. Me too. I had a really, really good conversation today with Sasquatch investigator Jody Cook out of Ohio. And because I was booking him to come back on the show in February. And we booked a date for the 19th, and we're going to talk about some Bigfoot and Dogman sightings that he's dealt with recently. But man, I'll tell you, the more and more I learn about this type of research, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's UFOs, there's a lot of ego and attitude involved. And, you know, it's not just from the people who are investigating, but it's the people who have an interest in these topics as well. And it's the attitude, man, that I can't figure out. I just can't figure out how cutthroat people are when it comes to everything online. For instance, preacher, this is what I want to gripe about, and we'll be talking about this on the Thought of the Dave in a little bit here as well. Last night, near the end of the show, as all of you know, I monitor 3 chat rooms, and I monitor Twitter. And the first thing I got to say is, I was not on my game last night. For some reason, you know, Dr. Scott Kolbaba just didn't get my best, and I feel absolutely horrible about that. I had an off night, and I realize, you know, off nights happen no matter what we do. So there was this guy in the Revolution Radio chat room, and I'm going to leave his name out because the name of the idiot is just absolutely irrelevant. And the one thing that kind of sticks me, and people who were in my SOR Space Travelers group or on my Spreaker chat room that we follow during the show, will know point blank that the one thing I do not put up with, or I don't really care for, are YouTube videos when it comes to, you know, posting things that are going to draw the audience away from the show. I don't like that. I think it's rude. It's much like talking with your mouth open while you're chewing food, or, whatever. To me, it's rude. It's absolutely rude. So this guy in the chat room in Revolution Radio last night was posting YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video, and I couldn't follow the chat room. So I asked a simple question. I said, and I wasn't doing it to be rude. I asked a simple question, preacher. And I said, just out of curiosity, why are you posting all of these YouTube videos instead of listening to the shows? Why are you here? Well, he took it the wrong way. Next thing I know, this dude is challenging me to a fist fight anywhere in or in the United States. Who knows? Maybe he forgot that I broadcast out of Canada. He's challenging me to a fist fight. I said, what are you, 12? Does that still happen? I said, buddy, how much Aqua Velva have you drank from your medicine cabinet? So I'm egging him on. I'm having a little fun with this. And he just keeps getting more personal and attacking. I said, buddy, you got to calm down, man. It's a chat room. I said, what are you trying to do? Be the internet tough guy? The internet hero? I said, are you the hero of this chat room? So finally, I decided to ignore it for a little while. I come back, and preacher, this is his comment he made about me that set me off. He goes, we all know the truth about you, Dave Scott. You're just a pedophile Jew who's terrible on the radio.
What?
Yes. A pedophile Jew that is terrible on the radio.
Jew? Everybody knows you're Ukrainian.
I know.
No.
I know. So,
oh my God, what kind of...
So he starts going off on all this pedophilia crap and this Jewish crap. I said, you're an idiot. I said, who does that? I said, buddy, I'm going to get you run out of here. So I messaged the powers that be at Revolution Radio, and I said, this dude's got to go. So they actually kicked him out. They banned his IP address this morning. I don't know if they talked to him or not. But it got me thinking all day, man. All day. I've been bullied my entire life, preacher. Okay? I was bullied as a kid because I was the chubby kid, and I had this long Ukrainian last name that people couldn't pronounce in a Mennonite town, so I got made fun of a lot. Right? And then all of a sudden, when I hit about 19, I realized that, if I work out, I could change the whole chubby kid thing. So I did. I worked out. I had one girlfriend in high school. And, when I hit 19, which is legal drinking age here, all of a sudden, women started finding me mildly attractive. Because I'm a solid 5.8 on the female look scale. On the male look scale for females, that is. And then in my professional career, I got bullied as well. I got bullied for success. I can tell you right now, one of my jobs that I worked at before I moved north, my partner and I put $1.6 million in my owner's jeans. And I worked commission. He rewarded my partner and I to start off 2014 with a 45% paid reduction in our commission because he said he paid us too much. And then 3 days later, he hauls me into his office to show me the brand new $130,000 race car he just bought, cash. So I've been bullied. I've had to go through it with my daughters. My eldest daughter, who just graduated high school this year, she actually had to take a full year off of school because of bullying. And, she started cutting herself. And then all of a sudden we have, my daughter now, because she, up here, if you're a new kid, which she's still kind of, called one of the new kids because we've only been up here 2 years. They're pretty hard on you up here. Very hard on you. To the point where her grades have gone from straight A's to straight B's. And she's a brilliant kid. She doesn't want to go to school. She has sick days about once a week. Schools don't do anything about it. I am so sick of this bullying shit, pardon my language, that last night, when this idiot did that, I went off. And I didn't sleep very well last night because it bothered me. These internet tough guys or social media tough guys, sure, I'm not a fighter, okay? I'm not a fighter. I used to be when I played hockey. I'd fight anybody. I loved it. It was a rush. But preacher, fighting's not the same as when you and I were kids. You had a good fisticuffs. You had a good, remember the days, man, when you had a good fisticuffs, you got it over with, and that was that?
Yeah, and then, it's a lot of times it's like, you'd help the other guy up or he'd help you up, and, it was over, it was done, fine, go. And a lot of times it was a friend you fought with, so after it was all over, you were still friends. Now people go out and shoot each other over crap like that.
Exactly. Because now there has to be revenge, and then revenge on top of that revenge. So I try not to play that game. Okay? Like, a lot of people, I've had people say to me or bring up comments that have happened on Twitter about the show. Okay, because on Twitter we have a real snarky type crowd. But I get them. They're awesome. All right? They're good people. They're constructive. And, if I do something wrong or they feel I let a guest off the hook, they're going to call me on that. And you know what? That's their job. That's their job. I absolutely love it. Sometimes you need more than 280 characters in order to respond to it. And sometimes it isn't worth it. But you know what? Like, I've had people who don't understand our Twitter crowd say, what are you allowing that for? Because I get it. It's fun to snark. It's fun to have fun. Okay? Guaranteed, looking down the list, I don't think there isn't a person on our Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio during the show that I wouldn't sit down and have a beer with. But when you get... Go ahead.
It's sort of like the Mystery Science Theater 3000 of radio. You've got the peanut gallery out there having fun, pointing out any mistakes or, being glib about stuff that most of us would probably not even catch. So yeah, they do have a purpose. That style of critique always has.
No, you're absolutely right. But, for this idiot to come out and say that I'm a pedophile Jew is horrific. It's absolutely horrific. That someone would stoop that low to say crap like that. Never mind the racist remarks about Jewish people. Okay? But to accuse someone of a heinous crime against children, how sick in the head does that person have to be to even make a horrific accusation like that?
Well, it's slanderous too. Let's not mince words. That's actually impugning your character and a slanderous maneuver. Or, and I find... I see that a lot of people like that use the internet as a backbone
because that guy knows you're never going to see him. He'll never see you. You'll never see him. That same person would probably pee themselves if you were in front of them and said, "Bring it on."
Well, I got the full breakdown. I got the full breakdown about his martial arts, about how I could choose the arm on which one he wants me to tie up behind his back, and he'll fight me one arm. Like, I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm like, really? Like, are you that immature that you want to challenge me to a fight? Like, are we 12? I said, grow up,
And most
dude.
well-trained martial artists aren't going to tell you that they're martial artists. You'll find out the hard way.
Well, that's why I asked him how much Aquavelva he was drinking, because obviously he wasn't drinking the good stuff, right?
Right.
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It is ridiculous that in today's day and age, with everything that's going on, that we still have idiots like this out there. And I'm still bothered by it. I'm still bothered by it. I really am.
Well, we're both kind of mellow guys, and we'd rather not go to bed with that kind of interaction on our mind. Because I know you're just going to pick at it, and it's going to make you feel bad. I'm the same way. I'm going to think, how in the heck did I get drawn into something that stupid? Or, I don't like that kind of conflict in my life.
No, it absolutely bothered me. And all day I've been thinking about, what my daughter went through, what my other daughter is going through currently. And I'm like, how the hell do you get away from this? Honestly, how the hell do you get away from this? You can sit there and you can run and you can move to different towns, but it's not easy to just all of a sudden say, well, we're moving.
Right.
But, how do you have to think about that now because of the child. Right? You have to think about it because of the child and their safety and what's best for them. I mean, you look at my daughter. She's 14 years old. She's 5'10", long blonde hair, giant blue eyes, athletic, and smart. When she's 20, what guy isn't going to be knocking on her door? Which is why I have a lot of big friends who have guns.
Yeah, well, I can't get them over the border.
I like it, Mr. Skeptic's comment here on Twitter at #SpaceOutRadio. Throwing off a quote-unquote pedophile Jew slander is a standard alt-right troll vocabulary these days. They'll fart out a dozen or so of those before breakfast. It's the new Abby normal. When you don't have the facts on your side, go ad hominem. That is so true.
Yep.
That is absolutely true. And you know what? He actually called me a leftist. I said, buddy, I am conservative as can be. I've said that on my show numerous times. Up here, I vote conservative. Up here, I do.
It.
And so, I mean, this guy was just being an idiot, and I had a bad show personally last night, and I just, it hit me very, very wrong. And for someone like me who suffers from anxiety and depression, as you've heard me say numerous times, because I'm not ashamed to say that I have a mental illness with anxiety and depression, it just hit me the wrong way. And honestly, there's nothing more than I would have loved to have done was hit that guy with a steel chair across the back. Pull an old school wrestling move. Seriously. I'd love to get in the cage with him. I would. I don't get people. I had to respond the other day, Preach, to a horrible, what's that social media, Snapchat, that was sent to my daughter. And my daughter did the right thing, and she said, she's my stepdaughter, so she calls me Dave, and she goes, Dave, I need you to take a look at this. And I read it, and I was like, are you serious? So I had to respond to this teenage punk. Well, first off, I thanked them for putting that on public record, because now we have something to go to the police by. You know what I'm saying? And then I said, I'm pretty sure, that if you keep this up, I will go to the RCMP, and I don't think your parents are going to very much approve of your actions on social media, so I think you should smarten up. And I made it nice and threatening in a legal way. But, dude, it's horrific out there. It's absolutely horrific out there right now. And I don't know how kids do it. I'm actually surprised that more kids aren't harming themselves or hurting themselves or killing themselves over this, because it's ruthless. Social media has made it ruthless. I'm a man. I can take it. Okay? I can deal with this idiot. Revolution Radio did a fantastic job. I was hammered by messages from their people today saying the guy is gone. We apologize about that. Not a big deal. Which I thank them dearly for, because we love broadcasting on Revolution Radio each and every night. But it just, Preach, how do you do it, man? Seriously. Everybody says, oh, well, you just got to monitor your kids' social media. You got to just take their phones away at night. It's not that simple. It's not.
No, because then if you step in without being asked, then you're as much of a bully as the people that are bullying them on the social media. So it's a catch-22. Yeah, take your kid's phone and invade their privacy and bully them so that they're not being bullied by, I guess, the fact that you're the parent is, the open bully license, but, that's still not a good way to do it.
And you know what? I look at it and I think, now your child is being punished on social media, but now you're going to harm their pain by taking away their outlet where they can contact supportive friends. How does that help? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an ugly catch-22 that a lot of parents are in. And I'm in that one right now. But like with this idiot on Revolution Radio, I can take it. I'm 44 years old. I'm a man. You want to talk crap like that with me? You want to accuse me of being a pedophile Jew because you've drank too much Aqua Velva? Because you ran out of beer? Probably drinking, 3% American beer. Oh, I'm so drunk, man. Whatever it could be. And then you're going to act tough on the internet in a chat room because I asked a simple question? You're a moron. If you're listening, you're a moron. And you know who you are. And I am not giving up your name because I have that kind of couth. I have a lot of people responding in here who would love to go to the Rev Radio chat room and absolutely nail your ass down. But what good is that going to do? It's not going to do anything. It just keeps the ball rolling. You know you're a moron. The Revolution Radio people thought you were a moron. That's why they got rid of you. But when it comes to kids, man, that's where I draw the line. Call me anything you want. Call me any swear word you want. But you know what? Idiot who said that to me last night, I'm a proud dad. I got 3 beautiful children that God has blessed me with. Okay? I almost lost one to bullying. She ended up cutting herself. I got another one going through it right now, and thank goodness my little guy is too young and naive to know what this crap bullying is. Unfortunately, he's going to learn very soon because he starts school in September. Right? But I can tell you this. Pick on me all you want. Call me what you want. I don't care. I really don't. Right? But when you throw that word pedophile out, you're a sick jerk. You're a prick. You really are. I mean, you got to be a real prick to say something like that.
Well, especially in this day and age where an accusation like that can gain ground whether it's true or not. I mean, look at one person says somebody harassed them. Well, the next thing you know, there's this whole stream of people that, got on the bandwagon at the same time. It's like, well, I was harassed too. And it's just like one thing leads to another, and it's almost like the cult of victimhood. Let's be let's get on the bandwagon while it's fresh. All these people coming out saying, so and so abused me when I was a kid. I'm not saying it's not true, but it just shows that one accusation, whether it's true or not, can go viral. I mean, it can just become, a careless word like that could ruin somebody under the right circumstances.
Absolutely. It's
very irresponsible.
So I said to him, come do my show. You don't like me, I'll quit. No big deal. I go back to spending time with my family. That's not a bad choice. You know what I'm saying? It's not a bad choice.
Right.
So then I started thinking of other pet peeves that are bugging me right now. And I got very few. Very few. But I can tell you this, man. I am very glad right now. Oh, yeah. Here we go. I get tagged. I got to boot this person from my Facebook here. Just got tagged in a UFO video with a CGI alien walking across. This appears to be real and not a hoax. Yep, you're gone.
Yeah. Bye.
You know what? Do I make a comment? No, we're just going to unfriend them.
Yeah, just let them go.
Unfriend.
Well, I know. I see a lot of that kind of crap shows up on mine. Yeah. And I look all around the borders, and somewhere on there you will see the word sponsored.
Mm-hmm.
And that tells you right then and there that it's a total, it's BS, it's clickbait, leave it alone. But somewhere around there it's going to say, if it's one of those kind of crazy things, it'll say sponsored or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
I just hide them right away, block them. I don't even look. I never even open them anymore. I'm not going to feed their click.
I am marking this as spam on Facebook. So, there, I'm gone. Get myself out of that situation nice and quick. Don't like that stuff. Don't like it. I did post on there, please don't tag me in fake videos. Like I said, when it comes to fake news, the minute somebody has to type in there, this is real and it's not a hoax, guess what?
Right.
It's a hoax. That's one of those tall tale signs. You can't be given more information than that right there. And it's free. Free. So what do you think? Sci-fi, survival. You're going through quite a storm there on the East Coast right now.
Right now, it hasn't affected me, but this time of year, even though I have four-wheel drive, that's no guarantee on an icy road. But I have an emergency pack in my car. I usually take some water with me anyway this time of year. It'd be stupid to leave it in the car because last I knew it was 14 Fahrenheit outside, so any water would be frozen. But yeah, this time of year I always pack. There's a blanket. Let's see. I've got extra hats. I've got my gloves, extra gloves. If I had to sit there in a ditch and bundle up to stay warm, I could do it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I'd have water. I'd keep the water up against my body so it didn't freeze. But yeah, it's I think I've actually got. I don't know if I wrote. Yes, I actually have a couple king size Snickers bars in my for energy in case something goes off the rails. So yeah, this time of year I keep a winter kit in the car.
Mm-hmm. Thankfully, we don't travel very far during the winter, but usually I always have jackets packed. I always have a lot of things packed in my vehicle at this time of year, man, because you just never know. And if I'm heading, out of town, like when I went down to the coast, I had all my stuff packed, just in case you need it. But I do have a medical pack in the vehicle. And, the one thing that I noticed, Preach, after going through what we went through last year with the forest fires and everything, and you and I were pretty much on the phone almost daily about this, just trying to, stay in touch, and you were trying to, make sure that we were getting okay and staying okay, which was fantastic. One of the things that, I learned from everything was that it's amazing how many people aren't prepared. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a small little hick town like I am, or if you're in a major metropolis area. Does it surprise you that today's day and age people are still so unprepared?
No, it doesn't. I mean, we were very self-sufficient growing up. We had our own farm. We kept our own, we grew pretty much what we ate, except for meats. And actually, we even, we went halvesies on a cow every year with some neighbors. But even we had instances where, the power went out and we were kind of screwed. We switched over to propane heat because even in that situation, even if we had propane. If you lost electricity, your heater didn't work. So we got wood. We had a wood stove. You live and learn. 3 days without heat. Refrigeration wasn't a problem. You just threw stuff out in the snow, but we're getting a little chilly. So yeah. But I noticed that there's a lot of people that they just take. I mean, there's honestly people who think that the meat you buy in the grocery store just somehow comes out of a factory as meat. They don't understand that there's a slaughterhouse involved. I don't think a lot of I'd say the 20 to 30 crowd has much of at least around here, has much of a concept of what the world really is like. I guess it's millennials, I guess they're called. They just seem to have they take for granted that the iPhone's always going to work, and their Twitter feed's always going to be good, and their Snapchat's always going to be good. They don't have no concept of what the world really is.
Gail has a question. She says, what would you do first if a bad thing happened and you were one of the few survivors? First off, I'm going to hold one hell of an introverted party. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to stay. I'm going to scout out. I've got multi-band radios. I'm going to run on battery, or you can crank them up. I'm going to listen to what's going on around me and be vigilant. I'm not going to get out there and either be one of the, I'm just not going to add to the mess. I'm going to kind of let the mess get out of the way first before I get out there. I've got a way, I've got ways to survive, and I've got things set aside. So I'm not really too worried, but I guess I would just listen to see what's going on, and just protect what I've got. I don't know what kind of collapse she's talking about, but chances are I'm going to be at the hospital, at least for some of it. So, I'm not sure how many options I really have. I mean, once I get to the hospital, I'm probably stuck there.
Then you got to worry about all them zombies coming in, man.
We can lock the door against them.
Well, first off, I'm having an introverted party because I am an introverted guy. And then the first thing you got to do is go for shelter near fresh water. Now, the beauty of where I am here, there's plenty of fresh water coming down all the time. There's plenty of food sources, so you hope that they aren't poisoned or anything like that. Whether it's fish. I mean, the worst part about it is I'm gonna if that happens, I'm gonna have to eat a lot of food, man, that I've never considered food, because I don't eat fish. I don't eat gamey type animals like deer or moose or bear or cougar, rabbit, whatever it could be. I've never been a gamey meat kind of guy. The good news is I will lose weight. Quick, apparently. I might have to add a few belt buckles, but I mean, I think the main thing is to try and figure out, shelter first and foremost. That's what you got to do. Shelter and water. Once you have those two things, you can find the rest. Everything else is easier.
Well, it's like you were asking last hour whether, what the advantage of holding, having precious metals. Well, to me, precious metals have gunpowder and copper-jacketed points on them. I mean, I think one of the most, what I'm getting at is there's a movie called The Road, in which a man and his son are going to some kind of post-apocalyptic America. And they are, at one scene, they are stepping on jewels, gold, money, stuff that was obviously priceless before. And what is of value now in their situation? A good knife, a bullet, a pistol, something, to protect yourself with. I think that in that scene, they managed to shake a can of Coke out of an old machine, and the boy has never tasted Coke. So it's, kind of a neat father and son moment. It's like, yeah, isn't this good? We used to have this all the time. Yeah, and I agree with Dawn about silver. If you're going to have a precious metal and not for trade, I would say have silver, because it does have medicinal qualities. There's things you can do with silver that you can't do with anything else. Gold's not going to help, but, personally, I think riches after a disaster are those things which will help you preserve your life and the life of your family. So stocking metals, precious metals, no. I
just want my fishing rod, man. I just want my fishing rod. And, I'll tell you right now, something bad did happen here, where a lot of people lost their lives and I survived. I'd be raiding their houses. I'd do that.
Yeah.
I'd totally do that.
I think so.
Yeah. This is why survivalists will always say, have your water hidden. Because if crap did hit the fan, water becomes the most precious commodity, worth more than gold.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can live without food a whole lot longer than you can live without water. I think you can go about 3 weeks without food. It's not going to be a pleasant 3 weeks, but, if you can keep yourself hydrated and, there's things you can nibble on that'll sustain. I mean, worst comes to worst, you can eat mice like Charlie Mowat did. But, there's water's the stuff you need to have. And a lot of people don't realize it. Keep the tank on your toilet. Every once in a while, turn the water off. Sweep that out with bleach. Let it, clean it up real good and flush it out, because that water in a toilet tank isn't contaminated, because it's a one-way valve. It goes down from there. So your toilet tank water you can actually drink, because it's the same water that's coming through your tap. And just to keep algae, just to keep it clean, I always say, about once a month or so, I sterilize mine with some bleach, so that, if something happens, because I lose power a lot here, 4 or 5 hours at a whack, and, no one knows why. So, I kind of like knowing what my alternate sources are. If nothing else, if you can't bring yourself to drink it, you got pets, like my cats would probably get the toilet tank water. Better than nothing. But no, I wouldn't have any, I wouldn't hesitate. It's not going to be the first place I go, but I would use it if everything else ran out. There's always at least, 2 or 3 gallons of water in a toilet tank.
Or if you have as much snow as we do, you go melt that down, because if you eat snow or ice, there's some sort of chemical imbalance in there that makes you even more thirsty, so you got to melt it down and drink it. So they always say, if you're in a snowy area, have Ziplocs with you. So that way you could take that snow, melt it down with your body temperature heat, and then you could drink that as water, which will kill the thirst. So always good to have Ziplocs is with you as well.
Oh, it's a good thing to have. What do they call it? I'm trying to think of one. I'm not trying to endorse a product. And the only thing, there's a straw that you can drink. You can literally drink out of a mud puddle with this straw, and it will filter out.
Yes, I've seen those.
99.9. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of those in my bug out bag. I've got a filtration system for larger quantities. It's consists of a pre-filter and a pump, and you can take lake water and fill your canteen with this thing hundreds of times. Yeah, Robert, that's it. And I just things like that, I think of water first, because you're going to get hungry. If you got water, you'll be amazed at what you'll find to eat. I mean, that roadkill possum might be disgusting. You get hungry enough, and that just became, 4-star dining. So there's going to be meat available. There's going to be things you can find, and they're not going to be super palatable, but you can eat rat, and it's not. I wouldn't go out of my way. I've tried it. If I was starving, it would be awesome. As as somebody who was just eating it experimentally, yeah, it's not something I'm going to line up for. But you can, there's lots of rats, and they're going to be, without, bad things happen. The rat population probably going to be one of the populations of animals that flourishes, because there's going to be a lot of carrion for them and a lot of unguarded food for them to eat.
Preacher, it's that time of the night where we got to fire up the thought of the Dave.
All right.
You can hang out with me, buddy.
All right.
Why not? Got Mr. Bumblefoot playing in the background with Cuterebra. So the thought of the Dave is a brand new feature on this show. And what we do is every day I put a new question on my Facebook page. It also filters over to Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. And I read your responses on the air. So these are the responses I got today on the thought of the Dave about this question. I want to know about one of your bullying experiences online and how you reacted to it. So we're going to get the ball rolling on this. Angela was the first to jump up. She's in New York. She says, don't have any online. Mine was all in high school. I still have flashbacks to it. When I see the people who did it, I still get nervous and want to hide and leave. Some of them have grown up and have become decent people whom I can chat with on Facebook posts and things, but there's a few that are just as bad as ever. Mark says, I guess I am too old and grumpy for people to mess with me online or in person for that matter. But those damn gnomes are always haunting me. Thanks for the snark, Mark. Appreciate that. Dave says, okay, grew up in a poorer section of town, bootleg territory, a lot of drunks around, family didn't have much money, father drank a lot, then always arguments and fights, so was a nervous kid, got picked on a lot, especially by this one guy who was older. Sitting with friends at a movie theater on one Saturday night at a matinee, felt a tap on my shoulder, turn around, bam, punch right in the face, black eye for a while after that. While later moved on from that neighborhood, said screw it, joined a boxing club, started fighting back, competed on boxing cards and all. Seen this bully a few years later, asked him if he remembered me, reminded him, challenged him, literally cried out an apology, didn't care, still would have hit him if the guys didn't hold me back. But because of bullying, I had an unhappy childhood. Addicted to martial arts now, though, so I guess all is good and not so bad. It's a horrible way to have to learn a lesson. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Cisco says, you don't. Just ignore the crap out of them. Tessa stated, I was bullied by a couple of gals on a paranormal page. When I defended myself, I was reported and blocked from said page. That's the problem today with bullying online and in schools. When you stand up for yourself, you are the one penalized as the bully goes on their merry way. Policies in our society have to change. Now, preacher, that's a real one. That's as real as it gets right there. Where did the preacher go? Did he hang up? Preacher hung up. Maybe his phone just died. Let's bring him back. Moving on. Elizabeth said, I was bullied by my orthodontist when I was 13. I punched him and he flew across the room, knocking his head against the wall. Why did he fly across the room? Because he was standing on a dental recliner I was in. Hey, where did you go?
I don't know. The phone just sort of made a weird noise.
Weird.
And cut out.
All right, we're telling Elizabeth's story here, and putting his entire body and weight on my braces that would snap into the braces. It hurt. I asked him to stop 3 times. He bullied me to shut up, so I sent him flying. I feel okay about it still. Jim states, bullying gets worse as you get older. Time to start raising kids that can defend themselves mentally and physically. Lame parents raise buttercups and blame everyone but themselves for their own incompetence. I don't agree with that. I really don't agree with that. I think there's more to it.
I do to a point. Yeah, there is more to it. I think not everybody is cut out to be a fighter. And I mean, you can send, there's just people, you can send them to all the martial arts schools you want. You can teach them to box. You can teach them how to swing a baseball bat. It doesn't matter. They're not natural-born fighters. And it doesn't come easy. And, you know, that whole thing, well, teach them to defend themselves. I don't care how bad you are. Somebody's badder.
Absolutely.
You don't
There's
raise
always
somebody,
someone tougher.
You don't raise somebody smart enough to realize that they're going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sonny says, a girl wrote a blog post about me once, spreading lies about me and trying to be hurtful, and blocked me so that I couldn't even defend myself. I made a new account and asked her to politely remove it, and I was suspended from the website for 3 weeks for block evasion. The girl in question has since apologized for her actions. She had been acting on some rumors that a mutual friend had told her about her. See, and that's where a lot of this crap starts, is rumors. Like what this idiot was saying about me yesterday. You know? It's brutal.
I mean, at least when we were kids, the rumor would spread, but there wasn't this anonymity to it. You couldn't do it on a website. You know, it was, they're in school, they're around the lunchroom, and you could walk up to somebody and pin them down.
Mm-hmm.
What are you saying? Why are you saying this? Or, that kind of thing. You could actually face your accuser. You can't do that anymore.
I'm going to read through a couple more because we are running out of time. Linda says, I was called a bitch and a witch, ignorant, all by a supposed spiritual medium on Facebook. He called out tarot card readers all fakes, and only he could get the answers from God. That's funny. Dennis states, I was bullied before. He said, meet me after school in the playground. So I did, finished it, no issues after that. They're all big in the hallways, yet they can't own it in the yard. Brandy stated, I have people bullying me daily because of my work. I simply make a statement and I block them or I just ignore. Their problem with me is their problem. It isn't mine. Vivian states, I used to be an admin of a free Facebook group. My job was to enforce group rules. Many people tried to get away with breaking the rules. One day, a nasty, angry member decided to start verbally attacking me, calling me a Facebook Nazi. I promptly banned this person from the group. Gabrielle says, had only one, but worst ever, about my mother. I just didn't respond. Although Facebook sent me a message to remove the post, I just didn't want to run away from it, as I guess lots of people must have seen it. The poster has never met my mom nor me. Some people out there are very sick. Brent stated, I can't remember one in particular, but going to high school I wore yellow slacks and a faded yellow-looking button-down, so since I was picked on and bullied for that, I kind of reacted in a bad way. After I got tired of it, I kind of became a bully myself. And he goes on to say, picked on the biggest nerd in school, picked a fight with a couple of others who thought they were God's gift. I wasn't in a fight before I became a bully, so I took it a little too far in the wrong way, and many people have that reaction. I did too, when I was bullied in high school. I can admit that. Preacher, I want to say thanks for you hopping on here. I realize you didn't speak too much, but it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Don't know where Preacher went again. Preacher got hung up on again. His phone line apparently isn't working. But nonetheless, we thank Preacher for coming in for hour number 3. Author Michael Z. Williamson, or if you're in the Commonwealth, Michael Z. Williamson, for coming in the first 2 hours talking about survival. Tomorrow night on the show, our Keith Andrews is back. The first ET Connection of 2018 happens the first Friday of every month. Keith is a regular contributor to this show. We're going to talk UFOs. We're going to talk disclosure, because a lot's happened since he was last on, and we got to figure out his opinion. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, our resident guitar god, rocking us in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of this show. I also want to remind you of our GoFundMe account, GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. We are past the halfway point of our goal. So if you have the ability to share or donate or a combination of both, please do so, as we need to get a brand new studio built here at SOR headquarters, because we got to go terrestrial. It's going to happen quick, it's going to happen fast, and we need some help to get there. So we're hoping that you guys can help on out. Most of all, I want to say thank you to all of our listeners at home, all of our listeners at work, in their cars, wherever you may be, on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club, or on the Spreaker chat room. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for making my night a great night every single night, because together, my friends, we own the night. I'll talk to you in 21 hours from now. Thanks so much for being here. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good one. I'm out.